Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar and meeting today. It's the Overburdened Criteria Discussions for Michigan State Revolving Fund programs. This is the second of two listening sessions. The last one we held last week, and we'll be posting that one online shortly. My name is Jim Ostrowski, and I work in the Environmental Support Division here at EGLE. I'm going to be turning it over to our presenter in just a moment here. Before I do that, just want to run through a couple housekeeping things for you to know about. Right now, the lines are all muted for everyone, but when we get to the listening session part, we will explain how we're going to open them up. So if you want to talk and let us know your thoughts, I'll show you how to do that. We are recording this session, just like we did with the one last week, and we'll be putting them both up on our YouTube channel later on this week. You'll be able to find them on the website I'll be pointing out later on, as well as we'll be sending you all an email with links to the recordings as well. Got about 45 people logged in right now, and I'm sure we'll have a few more join us, as I think we had about 75 registered for today's session. One more thing, make sure you keep an eye on the chat in Zoom, because we'll be dropping a couple links in there throughout the session. So we're going to kick it off today with a presentation by Mark Conradi. So Mark, I'll let you go ahead and jump on here.
Thanks, Jim. I will try and steal your screen real quick, so let me know if it will work.
Looks good.
Go
ahead.
All right. Well, everybody, welcome. This is our second overburden criteria discussion. We had another one, like Jim said, last Thursday, and we were hoping by having two of these at different times and different days, we could get even more participation and give more people a chance to listen and chat if they have some ideas they would like to share. My name is Mark Conradi. I'm here with Luke Hurley. We both work in the Water Infrastructure Finance and Funding section of the Finance Division at EGLE, and we work in the SRF programs. So for the agenda, we'll be going through why we are here, why we are only showing you today fiscal year 24 and fiscal year 25 data. Then we're going to go through what EGLE is trying to achieve through this process. And then we're going to go through what and how we reviewed the data we have, and then kind of showing what we found out by going through it. And we'll present the data, but then most of this time is going to be left open for suggestions to amending the overburdened and significantly overburdened criteria if people in the audience have things to say, although ultimately you'll have a long time to send them in via email to our office during this whole process. So first of all, why are we here? So legislation for the SRF for the state of Michigan was changed in 2022 to allow changes to scoring to be made no more than every 3 years. Prior to that, they'd been in place for a long time and were stuck in place. So this new law has allowed us the ability to, not less than 3 years, but every 3 years or a little bit more after that, depending on what the public would like as far as how often they'd like them changed, we have the ability to look at them. So part of that law also stated that overburden criteria needs to make up at least 20% of the project scoring and ranking. In our case, it's pretty clean because we do it out of 100 points. So 20%, 20 points. So 20 points for overburdened. And then we've added 5 extra for significantly overburdened with the current criteria. So this current criteria that we have was developed through a public meeting hearing process and put into place for SRF loans starting in fiscal year 24. So with that, these current criteria have been in place for SRF loans for fiscal year 24, 25, and now 26. And for the past year, stakeholders have been sharing interest with us that they would like the current criteria looked at to see if any modifications should be made. And per that law in 2022, this is the earliest opportunity we've been able to do so. So that's why we're holding these forums and conversations now. So why are we only using the fiscal year 24 and 25 data? Well, the data we have that we'll be presenting comes from the 24 and 25 project priority lists. Due to the way the funding works, we only really have data for these 2 fiscal years because people have asked that we do this right, now in the earliest opportunity. So because of that, as you now know, if you've worked with our program, right now we're accepting FY26 loans and applications. The clean water ones were due May 1st, but now the drinking water ones are due June 1st, and then they will all be ranked. But that ranking for FY26 projects won't be done until after this new criteria for fiscal year 27 would be in place. So that's why FY26 isn't possible to look at, because we don't even know what the list for FY26 projects is yet. Also, too, any data like, which projects actually closed and all that for FY25 also isn't available because most of the FY25 projects haven't signed loans yet because they're going in like 3rd and 4th quarter due to construction season, a lot of different factors. But again, we didn't have all completed FY24 and all completed FY25 project data. So our best way to compare was to use the 2 project priority lists. So who qualified in 24 and applied, and who qualified in 20 and applied in 25. So now the big thing, what is EGLE trying to achieve with this meeting and then the public hearing that we'll be holding later in end of July, early August, wherever that ends up being. First and foremost, EGLE is trying to involve everybody, all stakeholders in this process with ample time to submit comments on potential criteria changes. That's why we're holding this now. We basically, mid-May, so then you have all of June, all of July, and probably most of August. So full 3 months to get ideas into us for us to look at. Now with that, what we're hoping to get as far as like ideas from everybody here, we're looking for criteria that has a reasonable reliability or margin of error and that is updated annually. Years and years ago, we had to go off of census data, which was only updated every 10 years and then try and play with that. Now we have the yearly updates, which has made things really much more usable and much more fair because communities can change and ebb and flow. And we look at this the year that people apply. So the year you apply, it's what your data is that year. And that can change year to year. And that's been working for everybody that's been applying. As far as, everyone's on the same playing field. We're also looking for criteria that applies to all residents of the state and not certain geographical regions. Everybody that applies hopefully has the same shot at it. So not everyone lives in a rural area, not everyone lives in an urban area, not everyone lives in any areas in between. So with that in mind, we'd like criteria that doesn't apply to everybody, because then certain groups would get left out or certain groups would get different abilities to apply. Big one, criteria that a community could reasonably find or complete without needing to hire an engineer, consultant, or financial advisor. Once again, these are for overburdened and significantly overburdened communities, and we are aware that sometimes it's often hard, not feasible, or impossible to pay for somebody to put all this pre-project stuff together early. So especially like the last couple years when we've been able to compile all the data and make it available to everyone online, a community could come in and get all the data they need and fill out something for us without needing to pay money to anybody other than internal staff that's already working on this. And then the most important is we'd like criteria that direct overburden scoring points to those most in need. I'm going to pass it off to Luke now to talk about the next couple of slides as to how the review process went and how the data was analyzed.
Hi, everybody. So like Mark had said earlier, the data were gathered from projects listed on the fiscal year 24 and 25 project priority lists. The data was then merged with information that was received from projects that applied for affordability determination through either the Survey 123 application or the year prior to that, the Excel spreadsheet. Projects that did not apply for overburdened status were deemed not overburdened to clean out or to clean up the data. So this final data set was then loaded into a Python integrated development environment and was subset by fiscal year, overburdened status, and system type. Descriptive statistics were ran, mostly sum and mean. We wanted to keep the analysis simple and easy to understand. And to avoid skewed statistics, non-reported data and outliers were omitted from the final statistics.
Thanks, Luke. I'll go through this process, this next part that we did. Just to clear up some confusion there was on the last call, like when we say compared to EPA, what we are using is the CGES tool, which was the Climate and Economic Justice Screening Tool, which was used for the prior administration's Justice 40 initiative. And when EPA was looking at our program and when we were self-evaluating our program, this is the data that we were using. And when we ran this info, it was last December, when the CGES data was still available, and it was the most recent iteration of that data. So that is what we used. And so this is to give a little comparative look at how, what our system required and what the CGES map looked at. So EGLE's overburden criteria looks at median annual household income along with the federal poverty rate, and that federal poverty rate is just used to determine an automatic qualifier for a significantly overburdened community. We also use the taxable value per capita, and then we also use the cost of service for the average customer in the system. The CGES tool looked at 8 different things. They were climate change, energy, health, housing, legacy pollution, transportation, water and wastewater, and workforce development. So they were looking at a ton of different stuff, but all kind of, they were trying to get at it from one direction, and EGLE's is using a different method, but we then took those and compared them. These next couple slides I'm not going to read. They're just the data that's on our website. If Jim hasn't yet, hopefully he's put the website in the chat. When we get to the end too, that website is also where you signed up theoretically for this webinar, unless it was via a different link, but also it's where you can submit comments. So this is just the results of the data for FY24 and 25. Again, split up. More so, it's just in the slides, and the slides will be posted after if you'd like to see, but this is also on that website. Now I will pass it back to Luke to describe how we overlaid the 2 maps and the data that we got, or the results that we got from that.
So the CGES tool is a really great data set that combines 8 different indicators of burden to create a blended score, either disadvantaged or non-disadvantaged in the case of Michigan's area. And we overlaid our project locations from fiscal year 24 and 25 with the project type and overburden status, and did a direct comparison and found that in the CGES tool's case, 60% of the projects would have been deemed disadvantaged, and 40% would be deemed not disadvantaged. And with EGLE's current system, 87% is deemed either overburdened or significantly overburdened, and 13% were not. There was slight variances in classifications between the two tools, but overall our system allows more projects to be deemed overburdened or significantly overburdened.
Thanks, Luke. The other thing to note here too is it was almost a direct one-for-one comparison too. So EGLE's current method and the former CGES method almost agreed on everything. I think there were only a couple projects that didn't. So aside from being EGLE's current rules allowing or deeming more communities to be overburdened, it also did agree with the CGES tool almost every single time as far as which ones would be overburdened. So with that, that's all the data we have to share. Again, there's a little more on the website if you'd like to look more on the website, and if you have fun digging through those stats, that will be there. We'll now go on to comments. So Tim, I think there's like a virtual hand raising feature, and people can use that, and you'll call on them.
Yeah.
Okay. Comments can also be written in the chat. And for sure, like if we could shoot to keep comments under 3 minutes, there's a lot of people on the call and we could potentially have a lot of questions, and we've got a limited amount of time. But also if you don't want to comment on this, or you find it easier in writing, please send us comments via our email through mid-August. And again, we'll pop that up at the end, but that'll just be available as a one click off that page. It'll open up an email for you. It'll send it directly to us with what you need in the subject line for us to go ahead and read it. So I will pass it off to Jim if he can start sending stuff my way.
Yeah, you can just leave that screen up there, Mark.
Sure.
So right now we're going to open it up to listen to you and hear your comments. So if you'd like to make a comment verbally, just go ahead and click the raise hand icon on your Zoom toolbar, and I will call your name and allow you to unmute your mic, and you can make your comment. Also, if you want to type something into like a comment or something into the Q&A box, you can do that as well. We already got something in the Q&A box, and I see we got a couple hands raised. So I am going to go to our raised hands. First person that's got a comment is Gretchen. Then after Gretchen, we'll go to Luther. So Gretchen, you should be able to unmute your line and go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Jim.
Oh, Gretchen, we've got a feedback, so you might have a couple different speakers going there. So if you have,
and I cannot figure out my computer and my external are both going. Hold on, let me see.
All right.
Is that better?
No.
No, I'll just put it in the chat with my other one.
Okay, we can come back to you. All right.
It sounded kind of neat.
Every once in a while that happens.
Yeah.
So just to let you know, if you're logged out with two devices or something, you'll want to make sure that the speakers on one of them are muted, or else you'll get an echo like that. All right, let's go to Luther. So Luther, hopefully you got yours set up right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mark. Jim, how's it going?
Good.
My comment would be, is EGLE looking at opening up the population criteria that's part of the current overburden calculation? It seems to me like it might be a little overly restrictive and draws that line at overburden maybe a little too quickly. Is that something that EGLE's looking at? And if so, what may that look like moving forward?
So this is a nice segue. Yes, we're going to look at everything, and we'll be holding the public hearing in, like I said, like either late July or early August. That's where we will present our suggested criteria changes, or hey, we're leaving it the same type thing. So that's why this 2-month period right now, we would like to get specifics, as in like, I think you should use this data set, or like, I think this should get tweaked because too many people are qualifying or not enough people are qualifying. So absolutely, yes. So right now is why we're hoping And even in this time period, the earlier you can get those comments to us, we can check them out and try them out, because we want to see if there's changes we could make that would be helpful to everybody. So the more specific in both the request and what data set you think would be helpful in this, that you can send to us, the better, because we're open to look at everything right now.
And Mark, is that fine just to send that to you by email?
Yeah, we'll get to the specific way to do it, so it's officially marked, and then we can keep them all in the same place before the end of the meeting.
Okay, appreciate it.
Yep, thanks.
All right, guys. So Gretchen did put a clarification in hers. She said, "Are total tax millage rates assessed to the taxpayers considered in the analysis?"
I guess I'm not. So if a community has a millage rate that's assigned specifically to the water or sewer system, and so say it's the water system and they're coming in for water, that would be included as part of their OM&R costs or their expenses. So if that's the specific question, then yes, it is right now. If it's beyond that, I'm not quite sure.
Okay. And if you want to add more to that, Gretchen, you can. And let's go to Kristen. So Kristen, you should be able to unmute your line and
Hello,
Yeah.
good afternoon. My name is Kristen Hytine, and I am with Freshwater Future. We are a Great Lakes-based nonprofit, binational nonprofit, focusing on catalyzing community action to improve policies that affect our drinking water from source to tap. And first, I would like to start, in addition to my comments, I just want to quickly note one thing, which is that in the beginning, when you were discussing the history of this process and the issue, we at Freshwater Future and myself, we were involved in the last time this revision process took place. And I want to respectfully and politely note that although you said that the criteria was developed through a public meeting and hearing process, I really want to say it wasn't because when these listening sessions, these two sessions occurred this time 3 years ago, really the presentation was all the data that was going to be used. It was already decided, and through the comment process, nothing did change, and what was presented as draft just stayed that way. So I'm really glad to see, and I'm actually so thankful that this that you don't have all of the data sets already presented as what you're thinking about doing, and that there will be more time to consider suggestions. So really do thank you. And our feedback on this definition is has three main components. And that's first, that median household income and taxable value per capita can really be influenced by wealthier residents in the area of that community. So skewing that median income and skewing the average property values, as I understand what taxable value per capita is, it can obscure the true amount of poverty and need in an area. And so we suggest, one, using federal poverty level for both overburdened and significantly overburdened communities to paint a better picture of how much poverty there is. And in addition, we recommend getting rid of taxable value per capita, just period, because well, no other state uses it. I'm not quite sure what that means, that it's not something that is used anywhere else. But we don't think that this is the best thing to indicate where there's most need. Because Michigan is a state that has a lot of lakefront property that is very valuable, and in communities where there's higher poverty, and especially in our rural areas. So lastly, I'll just add, please, we really would like you to consider using Michigan's EJ screening tool for this purpose. We know that the data isn't currently being updated. We would really love to see it being updated and involved and included in this process as a criterion, and even better yet, used as a tie break. So better tie breaks for the scoring. And I know this isn't a scoring webinar, but so thank you very much. Appreciate all that you're doing and your hard work.
Thanks for the comments. We've got those down. And again, feel free to include them also in an email if you want, but we do have, and I mean, these are being recorded and we obviously have access to them. So we'll take a look at that. Thank you.
And thanks, Kristen. Just want to remind everybody that I did put both the website link into the chat, and also you'll find the email address you can send comments in the chat as well. You can also access it from the website. All right. Tiffany is next. You can go ahead and unmute your line and make your comment.
Hello, my name is Tiffany DuPont Anderson, and the question that I have is about this is an open form, you said, to amending the criteria. So what I want to know is, will there be more like forums like this held at I'm trying to think of it, more accessible times than the middle of the day, and also more in those areas that have been that are considered overburdened and significantly overburdened? Because to me, this right now is geared to the people that already know the situation and how to what's going on. But someone is in a rural area somewhere in the middle of Michigan, who's suffering, does not know that this is happening for them to get their input on what needs to be amended to the criteria.
Well, thanks. That's a nice comment. Ultimately, it's not going to be an individual, although it could be spurred by individual residents. This program would require a community to come in for a loan. So a resident would ask their community to participate. But to get to your original question, we're holding these 2 different times. We realize they're during the day, but they're being recorded. And this is probably the way we're getting the least amount of feedback. We're just getting a couple people that have wanted to comment here, but the purpose of these is to record them and put them online. So over the next few months, anybody can view them and anybody can send us in a comment. So ultimately, we're hoping to get a lot of email responses from this. And so participation in this chat, a comment in this chat is not given any more weight than a comment we get in an email a month and a half from now. So anybody that wants to sit and watch this and or has a comment until then will be welcome to do so whenever it fits their schedule best.
So I have another part to that question.
Sure.
So
Yep.
you know, there's a digital divide in the state of Michigan. So there's not equal access to internet in certain areas of the state. So is there going to be another way for individuals in those areas to be made aware that even if they aren't able to make it to these meetings, that they can go online if possible? Like, is it going to be advertised or promoted so that they know to look up their area water justice or organization, or to contact EGLE?
I guess with that, I mean, we will always take emails and calls regardless. I don't know, Jim, like what our posting is. I know the public hearing that we'll be holding later in the summer has more outreach involved.
Yeah. When we do the actual official public hearing later in the summer, there'll be multiple ways that you'll be able to comment, not only verbally like this, but also there'll be like a mailing address that you'll be able to mail your comments to as well. And there'll be some outreach that'll be done, and we'll be sending it out, a note to all of you to let you know when it happens. And if you know of people that would be interested, please forward that information on.
Yeah.
So,
That,
you know,
that
we'll do
would be
our
our
best to.
ask. Send that if you know specific people, because again, why we're doing it this way, normally we wouldn't, you know, the public hearing would happen like 2 months from now, and then there'd be a shorter amount of time after. We're asking 2 months ahead of time to send us stuff before that, so we can look at, you know, as many comments as we can prior to that. And then once the public hearing happens, hopefully people are, well, maybe a little bit closer to the same page, because we've already looked at everything. But yeah, that would definitely be the ask, is that if you know anybody specific, reach out to us, and we can give you a mailing address or a phone number.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tiffany. Okay, next person with their hand up is Irma. Go ahead, Irma. You can make your comment.
Hi, thank you. Irma Leafhart calling from Detroit. And I also plan to provide written comments, but I did want to say I'm thinking water rates, using water rates and poverty rate are probably two of the most important that can determine the need of ratepayers and the utility. Yeah, so, you know, basically the population's ability to pay and the rate that they're being charged. But I also want to ask a question. Are SR funds, are private utilities, private water utilities eligible to receive SRF funds?
You're kind of asking the wrong person a little bit, because this is the one thing outside, but I don't believe so. Outside of maybe some stuff in the drinking water program, I don't believe private entities can apply. It's got to be a municipal.
Okay, yeah, that would be something else that I think is important, that if private utilities were eligible, I would be kind of opposed to that because of their built-in profit motive. And my last thing would be public health considerations. If there is a community that's being impacted by, let's say, you know, lead poisoning or PFAS contamination or something like that, that's affecting their water system, and they need to do some kind of urgent matter, or like in the case of Toledo and the toxic algal blooms when the microcystin toxin, you know, was impacting their water. You know, those kind of emergency things, I think probably should also be considered. I mean, it's a little hard to do because those are emergencies, but, you know, it could be on the list. Thank you.
And thanks. If you have specific data sets you'd like us to look at for that, please put those in your info too. The other 75 points are also being looked at, and they're going to be hosting some meetings like this too. And a couple of those other, I believe, would hit more on maybe some of that emerging stuff or specific, you know, we've got a problem, we need to fix it thing as well. So there might be a different avenue for points in that vein as well.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Irma. I am going to go to one of the comments in the Q&A box. Person says, in regards to the total millage rate, I think the total millage rate should be considered because we have taxpayers in some communities who pay substantially higher millage rates than other communities. This can make the overall burden on the taxpayer significant when also paying for massive infrastructure to the utility system. Many of the millage rates are not even assessed by the local municipality. They come from the county, fire, library, metro park, school district, etc. So it's more of a comment. I don't know, just some question, but a comment. Yep.
Yep. No, that cleared it up. Yeah, just send in if there's something specific you're looking at. But again, this is either for water or sewer. So when we're looking at rates, we're looking at specifically what the water bill is doing to a customer's ability to pay, or what a sewer bill is doing for a customer's ability to pay. The overall taxing isn't something we're looking at as of now, because again, it's a water and sewer program, and that's how it is, but that's how it's being like viewed. But if you've got like some specifics as to how we would potentially assess that, that would be helpful for us to look at. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. We've got Granetta wants to make a comment. So you can go ahead and unmute your line and
Hi, thank you. I'm a consultant and I just wanted to second one of the comments made by Kristen about median household income. In my observation, it's a poor statistic to really identify low-income populations because it's easily influenced by residents with higher incomes in the same boundary. She mentioned that we have our inland lakes and they're beautiful and highly valued properties, but they can be in townships where the poverty rate is not comparable to what the lakeside cottage owners have. So instead, I think that the percentage of a community's population that falls below 200% of the federal poverty level, that's a much better representation of the actual number of low-income households in a community. Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks for your comment. All right. We do not have any other hands raised, so give it a minute here and see if somebody else wants to raise their hand or put something in the Q&A box for us. And looks like, okay, Norel, you can unmute your line and go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Norel Hemphill. I'm with the people of Detroit, and I just wanted to lift a couple of the things that have been shared by other people here today. The measure of income that has been mentioned a couple of times. Again, that median household income, we found that in communities that has been actually harmful and restrictive. Also, area median income is another measure that has been harmful. So as we think about how to reframe that question, as Granetta just said and Kristen earlier, 200% of the federal poverty level is a much better measure of income, of low income, and that percentage that the area and community has of residents that are at that 200% of poverty level and below. Additionally, as has been mentioned, the access to information. A lot of these meetings are during the day when a lot of people are at work and they're not able to get on the calls or have access to the information because it's chiefly online. So if there could be printed materials and alternative times to get community feedback. And then I also wanted to mention the data. If there could be requirements of data for those water utilities who are receiving the SRF funding, we're finding that there are data gaps in tracing the funds once they've reached the utility. So if you could require that and report back, that would be helpful. And I know that goes a bit further than the DAC definition, but we are finding that the things that I mentioned are impacting all of that. And I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thanks for the comments, and yeah, especially that last one, if you wouldn't mind sending us an email fleshing that out a bit as far as what you'd be looking at, because I'm curious what we could see in that sense. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Norel. And the email address is in the chat. I don't have any other hands raised.
I will.
Noel, did you have a secondary comment? Did you put your hand up again?
Yes. Can you
Okay,
put
go
the
ahead.
email in the chat again, please?
Yeah. Some people,
Thank you.
yeah, if you came on a little bit later or something like that, sometimes you don't get all the chat messages. So I'm gonna drop that in there. I just dropped in the email address or the website, which also has the email in there, so you can find that there. Thanks.
So yeah, if we get more hands raised or whatever in the next couple of minutes, I'll just come back to Jim. But right now, I'll just go on. So the rest of our, so we're accepting comments now. Please send them. The earlier you send them, the better for us. Better for everybody, because we'll have time to kind of see if we can get the data out there, see what data there is out there, see if we can implement it, see what it does, test it, whatever. So with that, in June sometime, we'll release some proposed criteria, and then we'll keep accepting public comments. And then in July, we'll be holding a late July, and then said maybe early August, probably late July. We'll be hosting a in-person public hearing, which will have virtual ability to attend. Imagine all our stuff's hybrid now. But at that point, we will then be sharing another draft, which may or may not be the same as the June one based on comments, and we will be presenting that. And we'll take comments at that meeting as well. And then you're still welcome to send them in after that. At that meeting, we will put a hard deadline on the end of, like, you know, when we need to receive public comments by. And then in September, we will post what the criteria will be for fiscal years 2027 and beyond. And note that that criteria will be in place for at least 27, 28, and 29 per statute, with then the ability after that 3 years to look at it again. But being posted in September will allow people to have that data before they need to get their ITA in for FY27 funding. So they'll have an idea of what the criteria will be before they put in an ITA. Yep. So public comments, this EGLE-WIFs@michigan.gov is where they should be sent. An SRF overburden criteria comment should be in the header. However, Luke has made this hopefully even easier. If you go to that website that has been posted where all this information is, there's a green box right at the top, and if you click it, it'll automatically open up a new email to that WIFs thing with WIFs email address with the overburden criteria comment already filled in for you. You just fill it out and send it in. We will be collecting all of those and going through them. So it's a good way. We'll just keep everything put together. Also, that website that has this will continue to be updated. Sometime this week, we will post the recording from last Thursday and today up there, along with a set of these slides. So you can go back and look at those throughout. But yeah, ultimately, please be as detailed as you can with your comments, because we get a lot of good ideas, but if they don't have a data set or an idea of where to get it, then we can't do much with it. So please, if you're saying, hey, we want you to look at this data set, I think would apply to everybody or whatever, that would be super helpful, because we've gotten a lot of good ideas, but then tried to hunt down where we would get data for everybody that would be usable, and we've struggled with that. So please be as thorough as you can in your comments to us, and get them to us as soon as possible, and that will be very helpful. Thank you. Did you have anything else, Luke or Jim, did we get any more comments, questions?
Nope, nothing in the queue. So thank you, Mark and Luke, and thank you all for spending a little bit of your afternoon to make your comments and listen in today. We will be following up with an email that's going to provide the recording links for both last week's session and today's session. So if you do know somebody that wanted to watch it and had to miss it, you can go ahead and forward it on to them. Also, we have your email addresses. So when the public hearing does open up, we'll send you all an email, let you know that, so you can get registered and again, pass that on to people you think might be interested. Thank you all for joining us today, and have a great rest of your afternoon. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.